So, young lady, you managed to find me? Yes, I just had my tonsils removed, and this was the climax of my first illness in 14 years. I'm not a good patient, and I'm not trying to be. And now the first question you ask me is whether I'm going to quit pictures. Not by a jugful. I'll be out of this place in a week. And the doc says that after a rest to get back my weight, I'll be a new man. And believe me, they've got a strenuous program laid out then, for I have to catch up for the time I've lost being sick. You know, under my contract, if I'm sick, I have to make up the time and deliver productions by intensive work. First, they report me laid up, even say I have TB. And now they rumor me out of pictures. I wish you'd tell them for me that any guy's got a right to be sick once in his life. And I'd appreciate it if they'd let me do it in comfort. Not that comfort's the right word for this kind of thing. Do you know they had to fatten me just like a pig getting ready to be butchered? They sent me off to the hot springs to eat and lie in the sun so I could get ready for the butcher. But I put one over on him. I sneaked across the border for some hunting. Put one over on him here, too. Nobody knew I was coming. Had my tonsils out and didn't tell a person. I don't remember the first night. Good thing, I guess. When a fellow gets to be in his 40s, the knife is sort of unnatural to him. And Ether, how did I get sick? I had pneumonia. Went over to Wisconsin and played around in the snow for my last picture. They called it Thunder, but Snow would have been a better title. I wasn't used to it, or the cold either. Living in California sort of makes you forget that you come from Denver. So I got pneumonia. I guess that's sort of likely to be serious. People tried to tell me to stay in bed, but I'm not much of a sick person. I didn't allow the publicity department to send out any stories. I didn't care what people might think. I didn't want sympathy from anybody. Nobody is ever sorry for a man who is sorry for himself. I went back to finish the picture, and then the trouble sort of started all over again. In all my years on the screen, I have never been ill, even for a day, never missed a call, and never been late on a set. My enforced absence from the studio worried me, so I sent for Mr. Greenwood, Metro's studio manager, to discuss the expense I was causing the company. If I'm playing a pathetic part on the screen, I never get to feeling it so hard that I'm sorry for myself, even in character. I always tell the director, if I start looking as though I'm feeling sorry for myself, stop me. That's no way to get sympathy from people, even in pictures. I squawked my head off about this operation. I didn't want flowers and telephone calls and letters. I just wanted my wife, and she was beside me every moment. Say, I told you once before, young lady, that if I had my way, I'd never have this interview. I want to be a mystery. Don't you remember? And here, I can't even be sick. I never even thought of leaving pictures. Illness is all that prevented me being at the studio right now. I ought to be there. The last picture I made is already being released, and I'll have to hustle like the dickens to keep them up to schedule. So what about talkies? Well, I've said my say about them pretty often, but perhaps they misunderstood my meaning. They seem to take it for granted I won't talk at all, but I didn't ever say that. I want to wait a while. I didn't think the thing was perfected yet, so a real human quality could get into it. They say that they've done wonderful things lately. I want to see that when I get back. I'm not afraid of the talkies. Dean Immel of the University of Southern California is an expert, and he listened in on my squeaking. He says my voice is okay. I was on the stage before I ever thought of pictures, and my voice seemed to get across there without any trouble. Taking these lumps out of my throat ought to help it. Sort of difficult to talk across a couple of baking-sized potatoes that were my tonsils. My old one isn't up for a year, so you know that MGM is talking to me about a new one. Well, if you know so much, why do you ask me about it? I'm glad you liked my article about makeup that was published in the Encyclopedia Britannica. The reason why I didn't show myself being made up and instead used Johnny Mac Brown is because I wrote the piece. I don't think an author should show his own mug on what he has written. Besides, I've told you before, ma'am, that it's my business to keep being a mystery. I didn't care about having them see Lon Chaney go through all his secrets. They looked different on another fellow. I showed Emil Yannings and Conrad Veidt my makeup because I admired their makeup and they made good illustrations. I don't see any sense in hogging the whole show. Say, young lady, I think you asked enough questions. And my voice is getting hoarse.